grade. Did you see the latest video I did up there in my little quick little shorts? It was basically I researched it. I was watching Morgue Official, and he suggested that Yaldabaoth is that some Gnostics and others believe that Yaldabaoth, the god of the Old Testament, is the same person as Yaldabaoth, which is a sort of twisted creation made by Sophia, meaning that didn't start with creation, meaning like, okay, so in the book of Genesis, when it says Bereshit bara Elohim et haaretz ve'et, I forget the next word for air, but basically it's like when the Elohim made the heavens and the earth. Well, the thing is that it doesn't say made like it is in the first creation. So all those Christians who've been arguing this entire time that that was the beginning of all time, kind of like according to Jeff Benner's class in Paleo Hebrew, suggests that they didn't really just read Genesis in the language, or would have seen it would have just been the fattening of this specific period of time, the fattening of a specific period of time. Because it basically reads at the headwaters of time, fattened Elohim, which is a singular plural. El is one god, Middle Eastern male god, and the Elohim is like a whole bunch of male and female gods and goddesses. So the whole yang load of gods and goddesses being headed by one El. So it's a plural singular, and the creation was not the first or only or anything, but just this particular time frame, the headwaters of this time that were fattened. I don't think we even have anybody watching yet. Oh, we have one person. One of my favorite little guilty pleasures is watching the Kardashians. You're gonna be like, why? Why? That doesn't even fit you. I know. Watching the Kardashians doesn't appear to fit anything about me particularly. And yet I love it. I think it's a good idea that if you have something that seems to be like something you wouldn't like or something you would never listen to, that's kind of like, often it's wrong. So then if you just choose whatever that thing is and test it out a little bit, like the old Dr. Seuss Green Eggs and Ham, then what might happen, because you might be like me and the Kardashians. And isn't it always shocking when you have someone you know and you think like, oh, they're so into this super serious, or they're so into this or that, and then, or like say if they're super into like fluff, and then all of a sudden they're also like into like, I don't know, nuclear submarines or something, and you're like, really? I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Just take something that people think you wouldn't like, music, a TV show, a comic book, and then like it. Just because they think you wouldn't, test it out. It might be like Green Eggs and Ham. I don't know. I mean, it's like, Inspire 0911. Why is the camera under the Christmas tree? I know. Spy. How are you? How are you? Miss G. Archbishop Richard Force-Gin. He says, thank the Lord for the mountains of talent you've been given. Just kidding. Good for the wisdom and discernment, cousin. Holy, eternal, omnipresent greetings, brethren and earthlings. Yes. Look, it's only the two of us now. I'm not sure if it's me and Macy or if it's myself and the Archbishop of Force-Gin. somebody could be like, hey, you think you got it all figured out now? And I'd be like, no. Now I don't even know what word figuring out even mean. I was reading The Vampire Lestat again and again, which is a book I read a lot. There's this part in the beginning of the book where he and his friend Nicholas, a understudy of one Mozart, but only because he needed more pupils. They go out and they do some kind of running off to Paris and all this, but before that even happens, they go out to the witch's place. To a place where the priest had taken both Nicholas and Lestat when they were children to see where in the 17th century they had, in their barbarity, roasted humans alive for witchcraft. And Lestat and Nicholas went there one night drinking, and suddenly the meaninglessness and the heaviness of everything hit Lestat, and his mouth became a perfect O, and he started to just say, oh. I think it started before the witch's place night. I think it started when he was like hanging out with Nicholas alone, and the innkeeper heard them, and it went on to the next night, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have to go listen to it again. There's a who wrote an entire book of philosophy, apparently, because everybody was like, here's the meaning, here's the supposed meaning. Go look behind the curtain, oh philosopher. And he did. He found it so meaningless that he found himself believing that the meaning of meaning is meaningless, much like Lestat, and then he promptly wrote a book of philosophy, explaining it in hundreds of words. Have I had one of those breakthroughs before? Because what you have to do is it's like almost like there's this grief expert that was on Mel Robbins, and he was like, it's because you're grieving the loss of a meaning that you thought you were going to have. And now that meaning is gone. And so what happens is it's some sort of a life crisis of disillusionment when you get to the point where you realize that no matter how you dice it, slice it, or look at it, if you believe in a singular, monolithic, divine creature of some sort, then no matter how you look at this thing, it means that the meaning, right, is essentially meaningless. There's an aspect that's just true. And they say that you have to be able to increase your capacity for negative feelings to have a greater capacity for positive feelings. So here's a great opportunity. This grief expert wrestler on Mel Robbins was saying that it's essentially the loss of meaning. The grief that you're having when you grieve something is all the meanings that you had given something. So actually, it kind of makes sense because the loved one is always with you, and the neural networks that they put with you are always there. But the meaning that they would need to be in front of you to fulfill the meaning that you thought would happen with you guys together is no longer possible. And he said what you're grieving when someone dies is you're grieving the loss of a certain understanding of meaning. And that anytime that you have a loss in your life, it's because there's a meaning that you anticipated that didn't happen. Some kind of meaning. So in this case, it makes me think about how some people will try to say that trauma is subjective, like Professor Sam Watkins. And even though I listen to his videos a lot, I've read some studies that directly contradict that. Meaning that, like, he said that he thought that people who were abused in part, and it was informed by the work of another, I believe, psychoanalyst who wrote a book, and he was saying, a lot of people are just traumatized because they simply, something may have happened in their life, but because the rest of society claims to hate the activities that were done to them, and yet they don't ever judge the abuser. And here the supposed victim has to walk around with the interject of the abuser in the only form that society doesn't like, which is the form of the victim. And he said, so therefore the society's lack of acceptance for certain supposed crimes is a subjective to inform trauma. However, if you read the Daegu mouse study, you would abruptly and suddenly disagree with that, because the Daegu mouse studies that these little mice are born with an intrinsic, like the way a plant needs water, humans and mice and stuff have an intrinsic entitlement to certain social bonds with people within their tribe and their family. And no, this is not, that we're not born intrinsically worthless, and that we need to get salvation from some Jesus figure to give you the worth that it takes for people to actually from the outside of you objectively give you some sort of containment. But because we live in a society that's been going forward at any cost, no matter what the cost really is, what you have is humans who built up millions of years of anticipation and entitlement to certain things like love and relationships, just like the Daegu mice did. And when they deprived them of fathers in this study, nobody came along and sat down and explained to the little mice, no, they're going to have a troubled teen years because dad's not here. No, in fact, the researchers made sure that the little mice had other supportive relationships that weren't their father, and that their mother was doing a pretty good job. And it turns out that it didn't matter. All these little behaviorists looked at these little mice and said, oh my God, it's like they all have hyperactivity, can't pay attention disorder. Yeah, they all have little behavioral issues because they have a scientifically proven disconnect between wanting and liking, which means that they can't set goals like other mice, because this millions of years of anticipated connection with certain people in their tribe, for instance, in this case with the mice, their father, when it was not met, the mice didn't need someone to break it down to them. The abuse was not subjective. The abuse was objectively viewed by the impact, not the intent of the giver of the abuse. So whether you're troubled enough to give abuse on accident or on purpose or with goodwill or bad will, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the impact that happened because of what you did, it doesn't matter what your intent was, except for in the sense that it might matter for some psychological purposes for my healing, but for you it doesn't matter. And so, unless I want to try and fix you, which I'm really not interested in. So, back to the study, it means that the mice in this particular study were, no, I'm not going to try and fix you, because to try to fix you, I have to become someone other than who I am, and that person's not someone worth being, and not really someone I like very much either. I'd rather just be myself, not ever trying to fix you. So what are we saying? Because if all of the millennial of human history would have little children expect to not be sexually molested as children or turned into objects for adults' pleasure, or have to be the one to give to an adult who should be giving to them, and that it would be survival of the cowards, survival of the least fit, would be the fit criteria, which means that meaning has been forever destroyed. Intrinsic meaning is now gone forever. The human race itself, all of its millennials of building up anticipation in human organisms to be loved by parents and not molested sexually, has been destroyed. And for all the other humans remaining, it might as well be destroyed, because humans are a psychic species, and a species knows what's going on. And if you're a psychic species and you know what's going on, and if it didn't happen to you, if you happen to have a soul, it won't matter, because if it didn't happen to you personally and you have a soul, it's going to torment you to the point where you're not going to be comfortable in your fucking life. I assume that those people who don't have a soul and don't have a heart are the only people who are okay with child molestation. The Daegu mouse studies prove that children anticipate a certain level and style of bond with the people within their tribe, a certain level of safety, including not being touched like that, and that if it's not given to them, they have a certain amount of objective abuse caused by impact, regardless of what the person's fucking intent was. It doesn't matter. The impact is that they anticipated all this stuff biologically from millennial of evolving, and it was deprived of them. So therefore the human race itself has proven that all meaning is only built up for the purpose of destroying it in the most humiliating of manners, which means meaning itself has been humiliated past its ability to survive or ever come back. It's gone. It can't come back. And here's the thing. I don't just believe that for me. I know that for every goddamn fucking human out there. If you're a human out there and you believe that this molestation and what's been done to the human race and defrauding people, then gaslighting them and telling them afterwards it was all subjective, is somehow okay, then you're a heartless piece of shit whose genetic was meant as waste from the beginning anyways. So who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? I don't care. It means that if the human race does anything grand after this or anything spectacular, it won't be grand or spectacular. It'll be nasty ass bullshit built on someone else's back because it was survival of the cowards. So all your family legacy and your special genetic lines are a humiliation. You're going to find out the common man's probably got something you don't have, these special fucking genetic elitists. Anyone who's a genetic elitist is a genetic elitist. So racists will try to tell you that they're not part of the elite, but they are. Because the elitists themselves, whether you call them supposed elitists, whether you call them lizard people or whatever you want to call them, or you quote Jim Morrison, who was supposedly the lizard man, who said, you know, the servants have the power, dog men and their mean women pulling poor blankets over our sailors. You know, he said he was sick of dour faces staring at him from the TV tower. He was sick of his stinky boots. So those people are supposedly racist, right? Because they do all this shit, and they stay within certain bloodlines, and then you go form another group that's also racist, and you act like you're not, that you're different, and you're not. It's like the guy Bradley Noel said from Sublime. He was like, fucking like, well, he did a couple things. He did a song called Evan. It's the song called Evan. My friend Evan is a Nazi. He's like CIA. They blocked it from YouTube for a while, and then they let it come back. It's kind of a like a sarcastic sort of ironic song. It's not literal. He's saying like when his friend started to get paranoid and started to think he was like going losing his mind, he turned into a fucking racist Nazi. And he's like, my friend Evan is a Nazi. But the thing is that the reality of it is there's no difference at the end of the day, because all racists, that kind of separation is just going to cover up the child molestation Como agenda, because you're always going to find someone searching for power within your own little group, and your elitism is a sign that there's something weird going on. You don't have that kind of elitism, I don't think you're covering up the same kind of shit. But whenever there's people who believe they're part of an elite little pact of humans, inevitably later on, it always turns out that there was some pervert behind the scenes doing exactly the opposite of what they said they were doing. It's the inversion politics of planet Earth called Prison Planet. And so, like, essentially, like, elitism, what is it Bradley Noel said about racists? Oh. He said, if you're a racist, he'll punch you out. Something like that. No, he said there was something up with them. I can't remember. He said it in the song. All the elitist groups are always covering up sexual fucking like perversion that they're hiding. Every elitist group. You know, they're like a bunch of white people doing all the same shit to kids as the people don't realize is that in elitist circles, I've been listening to Cheryl Rainfield and Annika Lucas. Both of them are cult torture survivors from their childhood. And Annika Lucas was part of like a Dutch network that they're mostly like white people. They're looking for a certain blood type. And those are like the people they try to turn into their little MK Ultras. Now, then you go over and you look at Cheryl Rainfield's story, and she had actually Nazis were doing it to her. So if you think that you can get away from it by going to the Christian group, so like if you're in a Christian group or you're in a Hasidic group or some other group like that, and they're doing Como Land, you're going to think like, oh, I can get away from it by going to some other cult like KKK or Nazis. Nope. Turns out they'll be doing the same exact shit once you get high enough in the ranks. What about the Masons? Probably once you get to the 30, the people at the very bottom probably don't know shit about it. But like the people in the 33rd degree, any elite fucking group of people, once you got that elite inner circle on this planet, because our money system is backed by human trafficking. If you isolate the kingpin of our financial system, you'll see that it's trafficking, all sorts of human trafficking. And you'll see that like we could rate your tennis shoes by how many people sitting in a prison or a factory and under some kind of slave conditions it took to make your tennis shoes, your t-shirts, everything. But the actual backing of the gold is important. Why? Because in sociology class, they teach us that any religion, it doesn't matter what the doctrines are. If that doctrine will always, how it's interpreted in the present day and age is always interpreted by whatever the kingpin of the financial system is. What? Yeah, that's the same thing it says in Machiavelli, the Prince. It says that the minister has to support the financial interests of the king or he won't be ministering for long. And in sociology class, they tell you that that's why in Christianity, they taught slavery a couple hundred years ago, and now they might teach capitalism now because they try to teach whatever the kingpin of the financial system is backed because the minister has to support the interests of the ruler. So whenever you have a church that's doing well on Prison Planet, then you know that those ministers are supporting the financial interests of the ruler, primarily according to history, archaeology, and sociology, the financial kingpin. Which means that if the financial kingpin behind our society is human trafficking, then turning the other cheek, focusing on a slave mentality for you and being a good person and all this other shit, and don't look up and don't ask questions. You know, if you're a really good slave, not with eye service as giving other men pleasure, but as to unto the Lord. If you find yourself however you are, keep your slavery a-going. That's in the New Testament, remember? And be good to your slave masters and blah, blah, blah. But if you find a convenient way out, fine, take it. But like, if you understand how to read the language that it's written in and you got this far. But like, otherwise it's like, it's fine. And if women submit to your husbands and this person submit to that person, submit to your lordship, submit to your political leaders. That's what the Bible says. Submit to submit, submit to submit to submit to submit to submit to submit to submit. Because that doctrine will keep you from forming your own group of people that is organized in such a fashion that they cannot be taken down individually and cause the whole group to go down in a ways that you feel like you're making some sort of headway against the religious or otherwise prerogative of human trafficking backing the money, and you're going to have to be devious and smart about it if you're going to try and do it. But do you really want your children to be in the world that would come and would benefit and think it's a good thing to defraud children of the basic understanding of the things they should have at birth and destroy the meaning of meaning? If every single person died, it'd be okay. Poof. I'm just requesting that I'll be the last one gone because I want to watch the captain make sure he watches the ship go down with the song, right? Who cares? It turns out that if you're in leadership, it will change your physiology. I read a book called An Army of Enablers. It was written by a endured horrible abuse as a child, and she came conclusion after going to college and studying and doing all this other stuff that the people to blame are the abusers for biting people. It's the people who knew that they were sick and continued this to benefit off the system despite being not affected by the sickness. The army of enablers. And actually, the Bible technically may agree with you, even though it may be a book about Yaldabaoth that's there to program you and keep you under control. Same to lukewarm or those who are in the middle of the valley of decision. But anyways, so then the idea becomes like, if it's the army of enablers to blame, that makes sense, because in that book it talks about how there was this really awesome guy who sold frozen yogurt down by the beach in his little frozen yogurt stand in the Philippines, and he had this great life and everybody loved him. And then one day they decided to make him president of the Philippines. The next day he has a boat at a castle and he's throwing people in a boat and he's doing horrible stuff. And she said, there's proof that power actually changes your physiology. So you know that whole thing, power absolutely corrupts? Maybe science behind it. The law of power is if it was given to you, you'd be womanizing or manizing the next day.